The silence of space felt different today. Lisa Reed pressed her face against the small window of her survey ship and watched the purple clouds swirl across Nova 7's atmosphere. She had been mapping empty planets for 3 years now, and most days blended together like watercolors in the rain. But something about this rocky world made her stomach twist with anticipation. Her scanner beeped softly. Metal signature detected. Lisa frowned and checked the readings twice. According to Earth Command, no one had ever visited this system before. Yet something artificial was definitely down there, buried under a pile of orange rocks near the planet's equator. Lisa guided her small ship through the thick purple clouds. The air outside glowed with strange lightning that danced between the cloud layers. Her ship shook as it entered the atmosphere, and she gripped the controls tighter. Flying alone meant no one could help if things went wrong. The metal signature grew stronger as she descended. Through the clearing clouds, Lisa saw something that made her heart skip. A sleek silver craft lay crumpled against a mountainside, its hull twisted and broken. Pieces of the strange ship were scattered across the rocky ground like fallen leaves. Lisa landed her ship 50 meters away and put on her environmental suit. The air outside was thin but breathable, according to her sensors. She walked slowly, toward the wreckage, her boots crunching on the orange gravel. The crashed ship looked unlike anything she had seen before. Instead of the sharp angles and straight lines of human spacecraft, this vessel had flowing curves that reminded her of ocean waves, frozen in metal. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with blue light even though the ship was clearly dead. A small hole had been torn in the ship's side. Lisa peered through it with her flashlight. Inside, she saw twisted metal and broken equipment. But then her light caught something else. Something small and dark huddled in the far corner. Lisa squeezed through the hole, careful not to cut herself on the jagged edges. Her flashlight beam revealed a tiny creature no bigger than a house cat. It had dark scales that shimmered with deep purple highlights, and small wings folded against its back. A baby dragon, though Lisa had no word for what she was seeing. That little creature was hurt. One of its wings bent at an odd angle and a thin line of silver blood trickled from a cut on its head. Its breathing was shallow and fast. When Lisa's light hit its face, 2 large golden eyes opened and stared at her with an intelligence that made her shiver. Lisa had trained as a field medic before joining the Survey Corps. She recognized the signs of shock and internal bleeding. The little creature was dying, and she was probably the only person within 1,000 light years who could help. She reached out slowly. The creature tried to back away but was too weak to move far. Lisa spoke in the gentle voice she used with frightened animals back on Earth. "Hey there, little one. I'm not going to hurt you. Let me help." The creature's golden eyes studied her face. Then, to Lisa's surprise, it stopped trying to escape. It made a soft chirping sound that reminded her of a baby bird calling for its mother. Lisa carefully lifted the injured creature. It was surprisingly light, and its scales felt warm against her gloves. She carried it back to her ship and laid it on her medical table. The little dragon watched her every move with those bright golden eyes. Working quickly, Lisa cleaned the head wound and discovered it was shallow. The broken wing was more serious. She had no idea how dragon bones were supposed to look, but she did her best to set the wing properly and wrap it with medical tape. The creature whimpered but did not try to bite or scratch her. The internal bleeding worried Lisa most. She could not operate on an alien creature, but she could try to keep it comfortable. She gave it small sips of water and covered it with a heated blanket. Then she sat beside the medical table and waited. Hours passed. The little dragon slept fitfully, making soft sounds that might have been dreams or pain. Lisa found herself talking to it, telling it about Earth and her job mapping empty worlds. She told it about her cat back home and how worried her mother always was about her traveling alone through space. As night fell on Nova 7, the creature opened its eyes and looked directly at Lisa. This time, something strange happened. For just a moment, Lisa felt a warmth in her mind, like someone had lit a small candle in a dark room. The feeling was gone so quickly she thought she had imagined it. The little dragon tried to sit up. Lisa helped it, and it made that soft chirping sound again. Then it did something that made Lisa gasp. It reached out with one tiny clawed hand and gently touched her finger. The touch was deliberate, almost human-like in its meaning. "You're trying to say thank you, aren't you?" Lisa whispered. The creature tilted its head and chirped again. Lisa decided it needed a name. Looking at its small size and the way it seemed to bounce back from its injuries, she smiled. "I'll call you Pip. You're tough like a little pip of fruit that grows into something big and strong." Pip seemed to like the name. He chirped and touched her finger again. Over the next few days, Lisa nursed Pip back to health. She shared her food with him. Though she quickly learned he preferred the protein bars over anything with vegetables, she rigged up a small bed for him next to her pilot seat, and he seemed to enjoy watching the stars through the ship's windows. Lisa tried to study the wreckage of Pip's ship, but the technology was far beyond anything she understood. The symbols on the hull had stopped glowing, and most of the equipment inside had been destroyed in the crash. She found no other survivors. As Pip grew stronger, Lisa noticed he was remarkably intelligent. He learned to open food containers by watching her do it once. He seemed to understand when she was preparing to leave the ship and would position himself near the door if he wanted to come along. Most surprising of all, he began to mimic some of her words, though the sounds that came out were more like musical notes than human speech. Lisa knew she should report the discovery to Earth Command. Finding alien life was the biggest news in human history. But something about Pip's trusting golden eyes made her hesitate. He was so small and vulnerable. What would happen to him if he became a laboratory specimen? For now, Lisa decided to keep Pip's existence to herself. She told herself it was only temporary, just until he was fully healed. But deep down, she was already thinking of him as family. The little dragon had brought something into her life she had not realized she was missing. For the first time in years, she was not alone among the stars. Pip curled up next to her pillow that night and purred like a contented cat. Lisa fell asleep smiling, unaware that she had just made the most important discovery in galactic history. Strange things began happening 3 weeks after Lisa found Pip. It started small. Her coffee maker would suddenly spray hot liquid across the galley wall for no reason. The ship's lights would flicker in patterns that almost looked like they meant something. Her navigation computer started playing music at random times, always the same haunting melody that sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Lisa ran diagnostic tests on every system twice. Everything checked out perfectly. She began to think the isolation of deep space was finally getting to her mind. Pip had grown during their time together. He was now the size of a small dog, and his broken wing had healed completely. His scales had brightened from dark purple to a rich jewel tone that caught the light beautifully. He spent most of his time perched on the back of Lisa's pilot chair, watching everything she did with those intelligent golden eyes. The little dragon had also become more vocal. Instead of simple chirps, he now made complex sounds that reminded Lisa of singing. Sometimes she caught him staring at her intensely while making these sounds, as if he was trying very hard to tell her something important. Lisa was updating her survey logs when the coffee maker exploded again. This time she was watching, and she saw Pip's eyes glow bright gold just before it happened. The little dragon immediately looked embarrassed and made apologetic chirping sounds. "Pip, are you doing that?" Lisa asked. Pip tilted his head and made a sound that was almost like a question. Then he stared at the broken coffee maker with such concentration that Lisa could swear she felt the air in the room grow thick. Nothing happened for a moment. Then every light on the ship started flashing in sequence and the navigation computer began playing that strange melody again. Lisa sat down hard in her chair. Her pet dragon was not just intelligent, he was doing impossible things. That night, Lisa's dreams were full of images that made no sense. She saw vast cities built on floating platforms among the stars. Dragons as large as spaceships flew between golden towers that stretched up into purple skies. Armies of creatures in dark armor marched across dead worlds, leaving nothing but ash behind them. She woke up gasping, her heart pounding. Pip was sitting on her chest, his small claws gripping her shirt. His golden eyes were wide with worry, and he was making soft, soothing sounds. "Did you give me those dreams?" Lisa whispered. Pip's expression was so human-like that it startled her. He looked guilty, sad, and frustrated all at the same time. He touched her forehead with one claw very gently, and suddenly Lisa felt calm. The terrible images from her dreams faded like morning mist. Over the following days, the strange incidents increased. The ship's computer would suddenly display star charts of systems Lisa had never heard of. Her food synthesizer started producing meals that were definitely not in its programming, dishes that tasted amazing, but were made from ingredients she could not identify. Once she woke up to find every screen in the ship showing the same symbol, a complex design that looked like a dragon wrapped around a star. Pip grew more frustrated with each passing day. He would stare at Lisa intently, making elaborate musical sounds, his eyes glowing brighter and brighter. Then something would break or malfunction and he would droop his head in defeat. Lisa began to realize that Pip was trying to talk to her. The problem was that they had no common language. She tried teaching him human words, pointing at objects and saying their names. Pip learned quickly, but when he tried to repeat the words, they came out as musical tones that bore no resemblance to human speech. She tried drawing pictures to communicate. Lisa sketched simple images of food, water, and sleeping. Pip studied each drawing carefully, then picked up the stylus with his claws and created something that made Lisa's mind reel. His drawing looked like a star map, but the stars were connected, with lines that formed shapes and patterns. It was beautiful and complex and completely beyond her understanding. The breakthrough came during another one of her strange dreams. This time, Lisa found herself standing in a vast library filled with crystal shelves that stretched up beyond sight. Books made of light floated through the air, their pages turning by themselves. A voice spoke to her, though she could not see who was talking. "The little prince tries so hard to speak with you," the voice said. "He knows the language of stars and the songs of deep space, but human words are strange to his kind." "Who are you?" Lisa asked in the dream. "We are the memory keepers. We live in the space between thoughts. The little prince carries our knowledge, but he is too young to use it properly. His emotions make the connection wild and uncontrolled." Lisa woke up with tears on her cheeks. She looked at Pip, who was curled up on her pillow, and suddenly she understood. He was not just trying to communicate. He was trying to share his entire mind with her, all of his knowledge and memories and feelings. But he was too young to control the flow of information, so it came out as broken equipment and confusing dreams. That morning, Lisa sat cross-legged on the floor with Pip in her lap. "Let's try this differently," she said. "Instead of trying to give me everything at once, can you show me just one simple thing?" Pip looked up at her hopefully. His eyes glowed softly, and Lisa felt that warm candle flame feeling in her mind. Again. This time, instead of fighting it, she relaxed and let the feeling grow. An image appeared in her thoughts. She saw herself from Pip's perspective, the day she had found him in the crashed ship. But in Pip's version of the memory, Lisa glowed with a warm light that seemed to come from inside her. She was not just a human helping an injured animal. She was something special, something worthy of respect and wonder. The image faded, and Pip chirped softly. Lisa realized she was crying again, but this time from happiness. "You think I'm special?" she whispered. "That's what you've been trying to tell me." Pip touched her cheek with his claw and made a sound that needed no translation. It was the sound of love. From that moment, their relationship began to change. Lisa stopped thinking of Pip as a pet and started treating him as a partner. She included him in her daily routines, asking for his opinion even though she could not fully understand his responses. Pip seemed to sense the change, and his frustration decreased. The ship's systems still malfunctioned occasionally, but now Lisa recognized the pattern. It happened when Pip was excited or emotional, like he was leaking psychic energy. She learned to stay calm during these episodes, and they passed more quickly. Lisa also started keeping a journal of the images Pip shared with her. Most were too complex to understand completely, but she began to see recurring themes. There were always dragons in the images, but they were not the monsters from human fairy tales. They were ancient, wise creatures who lived among the stars, and there were always battles, terrible wars that had left entire worlds empty and burned. One evening, as Lisa was preparing dinner, Pip suddenly perked up and stared out the ship's window. His eyes began to glow brighter than Lisa had ever seen them. The ship's communication array activated by itself and began broadcasting on frequencies that were not part of standard human protocols. "Pip, what are you doing?" Lisa asked. But Pip was completely focused on whatever he was sensing. He made a complex series of musical sounds that seemed almost like words in an alien language. The ship's computers responded by displaying another star map, this one showing their current location with several other points marked in glowing symbols. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. Pip slumped forward, exhausted from whatever he had been doing. Lisa caught him before he could fall. "What was that about?" she whispered. Pip looked up at her with tired eyes and made a sound that somehow conveyed both hope and fear. Lisa had the distinct feeling that their quiet time together was about to end. Pip had been calling to someone, and now they knew where to find him. That night, Lisa held Pip close as they both tried to sleep. She had grown to love her strange companion, but she knew that he belonged to something bigger than her small survey ship. The dreams and images he shared had shown her glimpses of a vast civilization among the stars, and she was just a human who mapped empty planets. Still, as she drifted off to sleep, Lisa hoped that when Pip's people came for him, they would understand that she had tried her best to keep him safe. Maybe they would even let her say goodbye properly in whatever language dragons used to say, "Thank you for saving someone's life." The ion storm hit without warning. Lisa was reviewing her star charts when every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. Outside the windows, space itself seemed to be tearing apart. Streams of charged particles flowed past the ship like rivers of liquid lightning, and the hull groaned under the pressure of the electromagnetic waves. Lisa's hands flew across the control panels, trying to stabilize their flight path. The ship bucked and rolled as the storm's energy interfered with every system. Navigation was impossible. The engines stuttered. Even the artificial gravity fluctuated, making Lisa's stomach lurch. Pip had been sleeping in his favorite spot behind her chair, but now he was wide awake and clearly terrified. His scales had gone dark, almost black, and he was making distressed sounds Lisa had never heard before. When a particularly violent wave of energy shook the ship, Pip fell from his perch and scrambled under the control console. "It's okay, Pip," Lisa called out, though she was not sure she believed it herself. The storm was getting worse, and her ship was not designed to handle this kind of punishment. "We just have to ride it out." But riding it out was becoming impossible. The navigation computer sparked and went dead. The life support systems began cycling erratically. Lisa realized with growing horror that they might not survive this. That was when Pip did something extraordinary. The little dragon crawled out from under the console and looked directly at Lisa. His golden eyes were no longer wide with fear. Instead, they burned with determination. He made a sound that was part growl, part song, and Lisa felt something she had never experienced before. It started as that familiar warm candle flame in her mind, but this time it did not fade. Instead, it grew brighter and stronger until Lisa felt as though she was looking at the universe through Pip's eyes. And what she saw took her breath away. The ion storm was not just random chaos. It had patterns, currents, and flows that followed specific paths through space. Pip could see these patterns the way Lisa might see roads on a map. More than that, he could predict where the energy streams would move next. But Pip was showing her more than just the storm. Suddenly, Lisa was seeing images that came fast and clear, like pages flipping in a book. She saw Pip's crashed ship again, but now she understood what had happened. It had not been an accident. Something had shot it down. She saw armies of dark ships sweeping across star systems, hunting down creatures like Pip. She saw worlds burning and entire species fleeing into the empty spaces between galaxies. And she saw Pip's people, Dragons who could fly between the stars without ships being killed one by one until only a few remained. The images changed, and Lisa saw herself from Pip's perspective again. But this time she understood why she looked different in his vision. To Pip, she was not just a human. She was one of the legendary species that his people called the stubborn ones, creatures who would risk everything to help strangers. More images flowed through her mind. Lisa saw humans throughout the galaxy, always showing up where they were least expected. A human medic treating wounded aliens during a plague, a human engineer fixing life support systems on a refugee ship, a human soldier standing alone against impossible odds to buy time for civilians to escape. In every image, the humans shared the same quality that made them legendary. They never gave up on anyone, no matter the cost. "We're not extinct," Lisa whispered, understanding flooding through her. "The other species think humans are gone, but we're still out here." Pip chirped in agreement, and suddenly Lisa knew exactly how to navigate through the storm. She could feel the energy patterns now, see where the safe channels were. Her hands moved across the controls with confidence she did not know she possessed, guiding the ship through the chaotic currents like threading a needle. The ion storm raged for 6 more hours, but Lisa and Pip rode it like surfers on an ocean wave. Every time the energy patterns shifted, Pip shared his perception with her, and Lisa adjusted their course accordingly. They worked together as if they had been doing it for years instead of minutes. When the storm finally passed and normal space returned, Lisa slumped back in her chair, exhausted. The psychic connection with Pip had faded, but she could still feel a warm echo of it in her mind. She looked down at the little dragon who was curled up on her lap, breathing hard but safe. "That was amazing," Lisa said. "You can see things that I can't even imagine." Pip looked up at her and made a sound that was almost like human speech. "Lisa," he said, the syllables clear despite his unusual voice. "Lisa safe." Lisa's eyes widened. "You can talk, you said my name." Pip tilted his head, considering. Then he spoke again, more carefully this time. "Pip, thank you, Lisa. You saved Pip. You are..." He struggled for a moment, then found the words he wanted. "You are good human." "Strong human." Lisa felt tears running down her cheeks. "You've been trying to tell me that for weeks, haven't you?" "Yes," Pip said simply. "Pip try very hard. Human words strange. Dragon words different. But..." He touched his chest with one claw, then touched hers. "Heart words same." Over the next few hours, as Lisa repaired the damage from the storm, Pip told her his story in halting but increasingly clear human speech. His real name was something like a musical composition that Lisa could not pronounce, so he was happy to keep being called Pip. He was the youngest member of what humans would call a royal family, though dragons thought of leadership differently than humans did. "Dragons not kings and queens like humans," Pip explained. "Dragons have memory keepers." Pip carry memories of many dragons. Old dragons, wise dragons, dragons who know how to fight the dark ones. "The dark ones?" Lisa asked. "Are they the ones who shot down your ship?" Pip's scales darkened with fear and anger. "Dark ones hate all free-thinking species. They want galaxy where all beings think same thoughts, follow same rules. Dragons too wild for dark ones, humans too stubborn, so dark ones hunt both." "But I've never seen these dark ones," Lisa said. "Where are they?" "Everywhere," Pip said sadly. "They hide, they work slow, they make species fight each other instead of fighting dark ones. Many species think humans extinct because dark ones spread lies." Lisa began to understand the scope of what Pip was telling her. There was a war going on across the galaxy, and most people did not even know it was happening. The enemy was subtle, turning species against each other while remaining hidden themselves. "Pip was flying to Secret Place," he continued. "Other dragons wait there, but dark ones found Pip's ship, shot down. Pip thought Pip would die alone." He looked up at Lisa with those golden eyes full of gratitude. "But Lisa found Pip instead. Lisa saved Pip like humans always do." "What do you mean like humans always do?" Lisa asked. Pip tried to explain, but some concepts were too complex for his limited human vocabulary. Instead, He pressed his claw to Lisa's forehead and shared another vision. Lisa saw dozens of scenes playing out across the galaxy. Everywhere, humans were doing what she had done for Pip. They were rescuing people who needed help, often without even thinking about the consequences. A human cargo pilot giving free rides to refugees. A human scientist sharing medical knowledge with primitive species. A human diplomat refusing to abandon peace talks even when everyone else had given up. Dragons remember all the human stories, Pip said when the vision ended. Dragons know humans are special, not strongest species, not smartest species. But humans never leave anyone behind, never give up on anyone. That make humans most dangerous to dark ones. Dangerous how? Lisa asked. Pip thought for a moment, searching for the right words. Dark ones need people to feel hopeless, need people to think nobody cares. But humans always care, always help. When humans help someone, that someone tells others. Hope spreads, like fire through dry grass. Dark ones cannot stop hope. Lisa sat quietly, absorbing everything Pip had told her. She had thought she was just a survey pilot mapping empty worlds, but according to Pip, her simple act of rescuing him was part of something much bigger. What happens now? She asked. Now Pip must find other dragons, he said. Tell them human found Pip. Tell them humans, still alive, still stubborn, still helping. He paused, looking worried. But Lisa in danger now. Dark ones will learn about Lisa soon. They will come. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. How soon? Soon, Pip said. But not today. Pip can feel them, but they still far away. He looked up at her with determination in his golden eyes. Pip will protect Lisa now. Lisa save Pip, so Pip save Lisa. That is Dragon Way. Lisa reached down and gently stroked Pip's scales. They were warm and smooth like polished stone. We'll protect each other, she said. That's the human way too. Pip purred, a sound like distant thunder. Good, he said. Together, human and dragon very strong. Dark ones will learn to fear stubborn humans again. As Lisa set course for the coordinates Pip had been trying to reach before his crash, she realized her life had just changed completely. She was no longer just Lisa Reed, survey pilot. She was now Lisa Reed, human representative to an ancient species and unwilling participant in a secret galactic war. But somehow that did not frighten her as much as it should have. With Pip at her side, sharing his strength and wisdom, Lisa felt ready for whatever came next. After all, she was human. And humans, as Pip had said, were legendarily stubborn about helping those who needed it. The coordinates Pip had given her led to an asteroid field that looked completely unremarkable. Lisa checked her navigation readings 3 times, but they were definitely in the right place. Nothing but floating rocks and empty space as far as her sensors could detect. Are you sure this is where we're supposed to be? Lisa asked. Pip was perched on her shoulder, his claws gripping gently to her uniform. His eyes glowed softly as he stared out at the asteroids. Yes, other dragons here, hidden very deep. Pip called them now. The little dragon made a sound Lisa had never heard before. It was like singing, but the notes went so low and so high that they seemed to vibrate in her bones. The ship's communication array activated by itself, broadcasting the song on frequencies that did not exist on any human star chart. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one of the larger asteroids began to move. Lisa watched in amazement as the rocky surface peeled away like the shell of an egg. Underneath was a massive structure made of the same flowing metal as Pip's crashed ship. The hidden station was easily 10 times the size of Lisa's vessel, with graceful curves that made it look more grown than built. Dragon Sanctuary, Pip explained. Safe place for last of dragon people. A beam of soft light reached out from the station and gently pulled Lisa's ship toward a docking bay. As they got closer, Lisa could see other spacecraft tucked into alcoves along the station's hull. Most were dragon ships with their characteristic flowing designs, but she also spotted a few vessels that looked almost human in their construction. Pip, are there other humans here? Lisa asked. Some, Pip said. Not many. Humans very rare now. most hidden like dragons afraid of dark ones. They docked with barely a whisper of contact. As Lisa prepared to leave her ship, Pip suddenly seemed nervous. His scales flickered between purple and dark blue, and he made small, worried sounds. "What's wrong?" Lisa asked. "Pip very young," he explained. "Other dragons very old, very wise. They might not believe Pip about human friend. They might think Lisa is danger." Lisa knelt down so she was at Pip's eye level. "Hey, remember what you told me about humans being stubborn? Well, we're also pretty good at making friends. Trust me." The airlock opened, and they stepped into the dragon sanctuary together. The interior was nothing like a human space station. Instead of metal corridors and harsh lighting, everything was made of crystal that glowed with its own soft light. The walls curved and twisted like the inside of a seashell, and Lisa could hear distant music that seemed to come from the structure itself. They walked through passages that opened and closed around them like living tissue. Lisa was trying very hard not to be overwhelmed when they entered a vast circular chamber filled with dragons. Lisa had seen Pip grow from the size of a house cat to a small dog, but these dragons were enormous. The smallest was as large as her ship, and the largest filled nearly half the chamber. Their scales ranged from deep midnight blue to brilliant gold, and their eyes held the wisdom of centuries. Every single dragon turned to stare at Lisa when she entered. The silence was so complete that Lisa could hear her own heartbeat. Then Pip flew from her shoulder to hover in the center of the chamber. He began to speak in the musical dragon language, his young voice clear and strong. Lisa could not understand the words, but she could hear the emotion in his speech. He was telling them about her, about how she had saved his life and cared for him. One of the larger dragons, an ancient female with silver scales, responded in tones so deep that Lisa felt them in her chest rather than hearing them with her ears. Her voice sounded skeptical. Pip's response was more animated, and Lisa caught a few human words mixed in with the dragon speech. The other dragons began to murmur among themselves, their voices creating harmonies that filled the chamber with haunting music. Finally, the silver dragon spoke directly to Lisa. When she opened her mouth, the words that came out were in perfect, if formally precise, human English. "Small human," the dragon said, "I am Elder Mora, keeper of the memory songs. The young prince tells us you saved his life at great risk to yourself. He also tells us you have the true sight, that you can share thoughts across the barrier between species. Is this true?" Lisa found her voice, though it sounded small in the vast chamber. "I don't know about true sight, but yes, Pip and I can share thoughts sometimes. And yes, I helped him because he was hurt and needed help. That's what anyone would do." A ripple of musical sound went through the assembled dragons. Elder Mora's eyes widened slightly. "That is exactly what we hoped you would say," she said. "You speak as the legends tell us all humans speak, without thought of reward or recognition. Only the simple truth that help should be given where it is needed." Elder Mora gestured with one massive wing, and the air in the chamber began to shimmer. Images appeared, floating like holograms in the space between the dragons and Lisa. She saw star systems she had never imagined, filled with species of every possible shape and size. "This is the galaxy as it was before the hegemony began their great work," Elder Mora explained. "Thousands of species, all different, all free to choose their own paths among the stars." The images changed, showing the same systems but darker, more uniform. Many of the worlds were empty now, their surfaces gray and lifeless. "And this is the galaxy as it is becoming," Elder Mora continued. "The hegemony does not conquer through war alone. They are more subtle than that. They convince species that differences are dangerous. They spread fear of the unknown. They teach that safety comes only from conformity." Lisa watched as the images showed her how the process worked. The hegemony would identify species that were too independent, too willing to help outsiders, too unpredictable to control. Then they would isolate those species, cutting them off from trade and communication. They would spread rumors and lies, making other species fear and distrust the targets. Finally, when the targets were alone and friendless, The hegemony would move in to restore order. Dragons were among the first to be targeted, Elder Mora said. We were too old, too set in our ways of helping smaller species grow and thrive. And humans? The dragon's expression became something that might have been a smile. Humans were the greatest threat of all. Why? Lisa asked. We're not the strongest species or the smartest or the most advanced. No, Elder Mora agreed, but you are the most stubborn. When the hegemony tried to convince other species that helping strangers was wasteful and dangerous, humans kept helping anyway. When they spread propaganda about the benefits of conformity, humans remained stubbornly diverse. Worst of all, from the hegemony's perspective, humans inspired others to act the same way. The images changed again, showing Lisa scenes from across the galaxy. Humans working alongside dozens of alien species, always as partners rather than masters. Human doctors teaching alien healers new techniques. Human engineers helping primitive species build their first starships. Human diplomats mediating disputes between species that had been enemies for centuries. Everywhere humans went, hope followed, Elder Mora said. Species that had been isolated began to reach out to their neighbors again. Worlds that had given up on independence began to resist hegemony influence. The humans did not even realize they were fighting a war, but they were, winning it simply by being themselves. So the hegemony destroyed Earth? Lisa asked, though she dreaded the answer. They tried, Elder Mora said. But humans are scattered across 10,000 worlds now, and Earth was only one planet. The hegemony succeeded in making most species believe humans were extinct, but the truth is simpler. Humans went into hiding the same way dragons did. They are still out there, still helping, still being stubbornly hopeful in the face of despair. Lisa felt a strange mixture of sadness and pride. Her species was not gone, but they were refugees in their own galaxy, forced to hide their nature to survive. But now something has changed, Elder Mora continued. Young Prince Pip was carrying vital information when his ship was shot down. Information about a hegemony weakness we have discovered. With that knowledge and proof that humans still exist, we might finally be able to fight back. Pip flew back to Lisa's shoulder and whispered in her ear. Pip, tell them about Lisa's stubborn human heart. Tell them Lisa will help even if it's dangerous. Lisa looked around the chamber at all the ancient, wise dragons watching her. She thought about everything she had learned, about the secret war being fought across the galaxy, about her own species scattered and hiding among the stars. What do you need me to do? She asked. Elder Mora's expression definitely became a smile this time. Exactly what you have always done, stubborn human. Help someone who needs it. The dragon's eyes began to glow, and suddenly Lisa was seeing new images. A hegemony stronghold built around a dying star. Prisoners from dozens of species held in energy cages. And in the center of it all, a massive computer system that coordinated the hegemony's operations across half the galaxy. We know where they keep their central command, Elder Mora said. But our ships are too large to approach undetected, and their defenses are designed to stop dragon attacks. However, a small human survey vessel might be able to slip past their sensors. Lisa studied the images, her mind already working on the tactical problems. It would be incredibly dangerous, but it was definitely possible. And if they could damage or destroy that command center, it would cripple hegemony operations across multiple star systems. You're asking me to be bait, Lisa said. We are asking you to be human, Elder Mora replied, to do what humans do best. Help those who cannot help themselves, regardless of the personal cost. Lisa looked at Pip, who was watching her with those trusting golden eyes. She thought about all the species suffering under hegemony rule, all the humans hiding their true nature to survive, all the dragons forced to live in secret sanctuaries among the asteroids. When do we leave? She asked. The musical harmony that rose from the assembled dragons was unlike anything Lisa had ever heard. It was the sound of hope, ancient and powerful, filling the chamber with its promise. For the first time in centuries, the war for the galaxy's freedom was about to begin in earnest, and it would start with one stubborn human doing exactly what humans always did, refusing to abandon someone who needed help. The hegemony fortress hung in space like a metal spiderweb wrapped around a dying red star. Its dark towers stretched for kilometers in every direction, connected by bridges that pulsed with energy. Ships that looked more like weapons than vessels patrolled the outer perimeter, their hulls bristling with sensors that could detect a fly at 1,000,000 kilometers. Lisa kept her ship's engines at minimum power and followed the route Elder Mora had given her. The path took her through the system's asteroid belt, using the floating rocks as cover. Beside her, Pip sat quietly in his special pilot's chair, his golden eyes fixed on the fortress ahead. "Still sure about this plan?" Lisa whispered, even though there was no one to overhear them in the vacuum of space. "Plan is good," Pip said, though his scales had gone dark with worry. "Hegemony not expect small human ship. Not expect dragon prince with human friend." They had spent 3 days preparing for this mission. Elder Mora and the other dragons had shared everything they knew about the fortress through their memory songs. Lisa now carried detailed maps of the structure in her mind, along with the locations of the prison blocks and the central command computer. The plan was simple in theory, but terrifying in practice. Lisa would use her ship's survey credentials to approach the fortress, claiming to be conducting a routine star survey. The hegemony's automated systems would scan her vessel and find nothing but a lone human pilot running standard scientific equipment. They would either ignore her completely or send her away. Once she was close enough, Pip would use his psychic abilities to locate the exact position of the command computer. Then Lisa would fire a specially modified survey probe directly into the fortress's main computer core. The probe contained a virus created by the dragons, one designed to spread through the hegemony's entire network and free every prisoner in their system. The difficult part would be surviving long enough to escape after the attack. The hegemony would not take kindly to having their main stronghold sabotaged. Lisa guided her ship closer to the fortress, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the hegemony sensors would pick it up. When they reached the designated position, she activated her ship's communication array. "Hegemony Station, this is Survey Vessel Horizon Walker, requesting permission to conduct stellar observation of your system's primary star," she said, using her most professional voice. The response came immediately, cold and mechanical. "Survey Vessel Horizon Walker, you are in restricted space. Alter course immediately and leave this system." "I understand your concern," Lisa replied, "but my mission is authorized by the Galactic Survey Council. I only need 6 hours to complete. My readings of the star's decay patterns. I'll maintain safe distance from all installations." There was a pause. Lisa held her breath, knowing that her ship's credentials were being checked against databases that the hegemony believed were secure. What they did not know was that dragons had been secretly accessing those databases for years, adding false records and legitimate documentation. "Survey Vessel Horizon Walker, you are cleared to approach to position 77 Mark IV. Do not deviate from approved coordinates. Any attempt to approach fortress installations will result in immediate destruction." "Understood," Lisa said. "Thank you for your cooperation." She cut the transmission and looked at Pip. "We're in. How are you doing?" Pip had his eyes closed in concentration. His scales were flickering between purple and gold as he extended his psychic senses toward the fortress. "Many minds," he said quietly. "Many prisoners. So much fear and pain. Hard to focus through all the suffering." Lisa reached over and gently stroked his head. "Take your time. We have to get this right." As they approached the designated coordinates, Lisa activated her ship's survey equipment for real. It would not hurt to actually conduct a stellar observation while they were here, and it would make their cover story more convincing. The massive red star dominated her sensors, its dying light painting everything in shades of crimson. "Found it," Pip said suddenly. His eyes snapped open, glowing bright gold. "Command center in Central Tower, level 47. Computer core, surrounded by energy shields, but shields have gaps for data streams." Lisa called up the fortress schematics in her mind and located the target. It was deep inside the structure, protected by multiple layers of defenses, but her modified survey probe was designed to look like a piece of debris knocked loose by stellar radiation. If she timed it right, the probe would slip through the shields and embed itself in the computer core before anyone realized what was happening. "Ready?" Lisa asked. Pip nodded. "Ready. Pip will guide probe after Lisa fires it." Lisa activated the probe launcher and aimed at the fortress. Her hands were steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. This was what humans did, she reminded herself. They helped people who could not help themselves. "Firing now," she whispered. The probe shot out of her ship like a silver dart, accelerating toward the fortress at tremendous speed. To anyone watching, it would look like a piece of space debris on a collision course with the station. Lisa watched her screens as Pip used his abilities to guide the probe through the fortress's maze of shields and barriers. For a moment, everything seemed to go perfectly. The probe reached the central tower and disappeared into the structure's heart. Lisa's sensors confirmed that it had embedded itself in the command computer's core. Then the entire fortress lit up like a supernova. Alarms began blaring across every frequency. The patrol ships that had been moving in lazy circles suddenly snapped to full alert, their weapons charging. And from deep within the fortress, a voice spoke with the authority of absolute power. "Survey Vessel Horizon Walker. You have committed an act of war against the hegemony. Prepare to be destroyed." Lisa's ship shuddered as targeting lasers locked onto her hull. She fired the engines to full power and began evasive maneuvers. But she knew it was hopeless. Her small survey vessel was no match for an entire fortress, full of warships. "It's okay, Pip," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "We got the virus into their system. Even if we don't make it out, we've helped all those prisoners." But Pip was not giving up. His eyes were blazing now, brighter than Lisa had ever seen them. The little dragon stood up on his chair and spread his wings, which had grown much larger during their time together. "Pip not let Lisa die," he declared. "Lisa save Pip. Now Pip save Lisa." Energy began to pour off the small dragon like heat from a fire. Lisa felt the familiar warmth in her mind, but this time it was different. Instead of gentle sharing, it was like being connected to a star. Power flowed into her thoughts, her reflexes, her very perception of reality. Suddenly, Lisa could see everything. She knew exactly where each enemy ship would be in the next 10 seconds. She could predict the path of every weapon blast before it was fired. Most importantly, she could feel something awakening in the fortress itself. The virus was working. Throughout the massive structure, prison doors were opening and force fields were failing. Thousands of beings from dozens of species were suddenly free for the first time in years, and they were angry. "The prisoners are escaping," Lisa said, her enhanced senses showing her the chaos spreading through the fortress. "They're fighting back." "Dragon memories tell Pip how to help," Pip said, his voice now carrying harmonics that Lisa felt in her bones. "Pip share power with freed prisoners. Give them strength to fight." Lisa watched in amazement as Pip's psychic abilities reached across space to touch the minds of the escaping prisoners. Suddenly, beings who had been weak from captivity found themselves filled with dragon strength. Creatures who had forgotten how to hope remembered the fire of freedom. The fortress erupted into full-scale rebellion. Prisoner ships that had been held in the docking bays launched without permission, their crews no longer content to wait for rescue. The hegemony guards found themselves outnumbered and outfought by captives who now moved with supernatural coordination. But the patrol ships were still focused on Lisa. Energy beams lanced through space around her vessel, each one missing by smaller and smaller margins. Her luck would not hold much longer. That was when the dragons arrived. They came out of hyperspace, like a symphony of silver lightning, their massive forms moving with impossible grace between the stars. Elder Mora led them, her ancient voice singing battle songs that had not been heard in the galaxy for centuries. Behind her came dozens of other dragons, each one larger than the biggest hegemony warship. The patrol ships turned to face this new threat, their weapons charging to full power. But they were not prepared for what came next. Pip's psychic connection with Lisa suddenly expanded, reaching out to encompass his people. Lisa found herself at the center of a network that connected every dragon in the battle fleet. She could feel their ancient wisdom, their accumulated knowledge of warfare, their absolute determination to protect the innocent. "Now Lisa, understand," Pip said, his young voice carrying the weight of centuries. "This why dragons and humans work together. Dragons have power, but humans have heart. Together unstoppable." Lisa felt herself becoming something more than human. With dragon strength flowing through her mind, she could pilot her ship like it was an extension of her own body. She danced between enemy fire, always exactly where the weapons were not aimed. At the same time, she coordinated the entire dragon fleet, her human tactical thinking enhanced by alien wisdom. The battle was over in minutes. The patrol ships, designed to fight conventional enemies, had no defense against the combined might of dragons and human ingenuity. The fortress's weapon systems, compromised by the virus, turned on their own creators. As the last hegemony ship fell silent, Lisa found herself floating in space surrounded by dragons and freed prisoners. Ships of every possible design filled the area around the dying star, their crews cheering in dozens of different languages. Elder Mora's massive form drifted close to Lisa's tiny vessel. "Well done, stubborn human," the dragon said, her ancient voice warm with approval. "You have reminded the galaxy that some things are worth fighting for." Lisa looked at Pip, who was now glowing so brightly that he looked like a small sun. The little dragon who had once struggled to say her name was now speaking with the voice of his entire species. "This just the beginning," Pip said. "Word will spread across galaxy. Dragons alive, humans alive, hope alive. Dark ones will learn to fear the light again." Over the following hours, as the freed prisoners organized themselves and prepared to carry news of the victory to their homeworlds, Lisa realized that her life had changed forever. She was no longer just a survey pilot. She was now Lisa Reed, the human who had helped start a galactic revolution. But somehow, that felt exactly right. After all, she was human, and humans, as the galaxy was about to remember, never gave up on anyone who needed help. Not ever. The dying red star cast its light across the gathered fleet as they prepared to carry their message of hope to every corner of the galaxy. The war for freedom had begun, and it would be won the human way, one act of stubborn kindness at a time. Pip curled up on Lisa's shoulder, his scales now permanently bright gold with traces of silver. "Lisa," he said sleepily, "Pip proud to be human's friend." Lisa smiled and gently stroked his head. "I'm proud to be your friend too, Pip. Now let's go show the galaxy what stubborn really means."